Good Erev Yom Tov. I would like to now discuss Hadlakas Neros Yom Tov as it compares to Hadlakas Neros Shabbos. Typically, when we do a mitzvah, we do it what's called over la'asiyas, when we recite the bracha on the mitzvah immediately prior to performing the act itself. So, for example, before we put on our tefillin, we recite the bracha and then we put on our tefillin. Before we read the Megillah, we recite Al Mikra Megillah, and then we'll recite the Megillah. And that holds true for almost all mitzvahs. However, there are a couple of mitzvahs which it gets a little bit complicated in terms of doing that. One area that is true is Hadlakas Neros Shabbos. The reason being that if we were to do over la'asiyas like all other mitzvahs, so that would mean reciting the bracha first and then going ahead and lighting the candles. However, if we were to do that, some poskim are concerned that immediately upon reciting the bracha on the Ner Shabbos, so at that point we accept Kedushas Shabbos. At that point, Shabbos has come in, and to go ahead and then light the candles would be one of the malachas, one of the forbidden acts of work on Shabbos, and therefore we cannot do that like we typically do. And therefore, the recommendation is first we light the candles. However, that's where the whole covering our eyes comes into it, because the purpose of covering our eyes is not only some heebie-jeebie act, but is actually has firm halachic basis. The reason being that at that point we have lit the candles, but we don't get the hana'ah. The real mitzvah of lighting Ner Shabbos is getting the hana'ah, getting the benefit from the light. So immediately upon lighting the candles, we cover our eyes so as not to get any benefit from the light. We recite the bracha, and then we get benefit. So that's the best way in which we can most closely perform over la'asiyasan while not violating Shabbos. Now, therefore, that's the process on Shabbos. When it comes to Yom Tov, however, we know that one of the areas where Yom Tov is different is that one is allowed to light a fire on Yom Tov, as opposed to Shabbos. One is allowed to on Yom Tov. One is not allowed to light a new fire, so it would need to be from a pre-existing flame, or the match would need to be, we need to strike the match first. But in terms of lighting the candle itself, would not be problematic to do on Yom Tov. And therefore, there are some poskim who suggest that on Yom Tov, we should switch the order. That we want to be like every other mitzvah, we want to do over la'asiyasan. So the best thing to do is to make the bracha. So we light the match first, or we light a pre-existing candle first, then make the bracha, and then go ahead and light the ner of Yom Tov, and that way we have over la'asiyasan, and there's no problem of violating Yom Tov. So that many do have the minhag, that they have the custom that they actually reverse the order, as opposed to on Shabbos where they'll first light and then recite the bracha. That concern of violating Shabbos does not apply to Yom Tov. There's no concern of violating Yom Tov, and therefore many will actually recite the bracha on Yom Tov prior to lighting the candles to fulfill over la'asiyasan. However, there are some poskim who prefer not to do that because they say it's going to lead to confusion. Which is first, Yom Tov, Shabbos, which one, what's the order, and it may lead to violating Shabbos, it may lead to some inappropriate behavior, and therefore some prefer to just leave the process the same. So everyone should follow what their minhag is, what their personal family custom is, but those are the logics and the reasons why perhaps some may switch the order of Yom Tov as to Shabbos, and why some may keep it the same. Have a fantastic Yom.